The Two Wolves Within, a warrior's journey to master his inner battle. The impossible choice. The village elders stood in a circle around Takoda, their faces carved with judgment in the firelight. In his trembling hands, he held the ceremonial blade, the same blade that had drawn blood 3 days ago. They had given him one final choice: execute the traitor who had betrayed them all, or be exiled forever as a coward. But what they didn't know was that Takoda had been hearing two voices in his head since childhood. Tonight, both wolves were howling for control. His best friend Kai knelt before him, wrists bound, eyes filled with something Takoda couldn't name. Betrayal? Regret? Or was it relief that the truth had finally surfaced? The shadow wolf inside Takoda roared. "He killed your father. He's destroying your home. End him." The spirit wolf whispered, "There's more to this story. Wait, listen, understand." Takoda's grip tightened on the blade. The elders watched. The village held its breath. But to understand how Takoda arrived at this impossible moment, we must go back 6 months earlier. Takoda's fist connected with the training dummy with a crack that echoed across the mountain courtyard, then another and another. Each strike faster, harder, more furious than the last. "Takoda, stop!" He didn't hear Mika's voice. He didn't see the other students backing away. He only felt the rage, that familiar fire that consumed everything in its path. The training dummy exploded into splinters. Takoda stood there, chest heaving, knuckles bleeding, staring at the destruction. Again. It was happening again. "You could have killed someone." Mika's voice was soft, but her eyes held something that hurt worse than any wound. Disappointment mixed with fear. At 19, Takoda was the most gifted fighter the mountain village had seen in a generation. His father had been a legendary warrior, a guardian whose name was still spoken with reverence. But Takoda carried a secret that kept him awake at night. He wasn't in control. Not really. Some days, he felt invincible, like he could conquer mountains, face any enemy, become the warrior everyone expected him to be. Those were the days when fire flowed through his veins, when every movement felt perfect, when the spirit wolf inside him sang with purpose and courage. Other days, darkness descended, paralyzing fear, crushing doubt, and worst of all, rage that erupted without warning, leaving destruction in its wake. 3 years ago, during an advanced training session, Takoda had nearly killed a fellow student. The boy had made a joke about his father. Something inside Takoda snapped. By the time they pulled him off, the boy was unconscious, bleeding, broken. The council had given him one chance, one opportunity to prove he could control himself. That chance was running out. "The Guardian selection trials are announced," Kai said, approaching carefully. Kai was everything Takoda wanted to be: calm, centered, respected. Where Takoda was volcanic, Kai was a still mountain lake. 30 days, brother. This is your moment." Takoda looked at his bleeding hands. "What if I'm not ready? You're the best fighter we have." "Fighting isn't the problem. I am." Takoda's voice dropped. Every decade, the village selected one guardian, a warrior who would protect the community, lead the defenders, embody everything their people valued. The trials were legendary, brutal. Only the worthy survived. But Takoda's greatest enemy wasn't any external challenge. It was the battle raging inside his own mind. "Your father would be proud." Kai said quietly. Would he? Takoda's father died 5 years ago under mysterious circumstances. Officially, it was a training accident, but Takoda had heard the whispers. Some said his father had lost control, that the same rage that haunted Takoda had consumed his father too, that he'd been killed because he'd become too dangerous. I need to go, Takoda said, turning away before Kai could see his expression. That night, Mika found him at the cliff edge overlooking the valley. She was the village's youngest healer, gifted with herbs and medicine, but also with something more valuable, the ability to see people's hearts. You're afraid, she said, sitting beside him. I'm always afraid. Of what? Of myself. The admission came out raw. Mika, there's something wrong with me, like 2 different people fighting inside my head. One moment I'm ready to face anything. The next, I'm paralyzed, or worse, I'm destroying everything I touch. She took his hand, examining his torn knuckles. You're not broken, Takoda. You're just at war with yourself. How do I stop fighting? Maybe, she said, applying salve to his wounds. You need to understand why you're fighting first.
The announcement came at dawn. Elder Shen stood before the assembled warriors, his voice carrying across the courtyard. The Guardian Selection Trials will test everything you are. 7 days of solo survival in the hostile mountains. Team challenges that will break the weak. Combat trials that will separate warriors from legends. 30 days from now, one of you will be chosen. The rest will know where you stand. Takoda felt electricity surge through him. This was it, his chance to prove he wasn't his father. His chance to become something more than the volatile warrior everyone feared. Then he saw Raven watching him from across the courtyard. Raven was lean, calculating, dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with raw strength. Where other warriors relied on power, Raven used psychology. He studied opponents, found weaknesses, exploited them with surgical precision. Looking forward to this, Takoda, Raven said, approaching with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I wonder if you'll make it past the first trial without losing control. Stay away from me. You know what they say about your father, don't you? About how he really died. The shadow wolf stirred. Heat flooded Takoda's veins. They say he couldn't control himself anymore, that the elders made a decision for the safety of everyone. Lend closer, like father, like son. Takoda's hand shot out, grabbing Raven's collar. The courtyard went silent. There it is, Raven whispered. The beast. Takoda, Kai's voice cut through the rage. His hand settled on Takoda's shoulder. He's not worth it. Slowly, Takoda released Raven, but he saw it in the elder's eyes. Doubt, fear, the question of whether he should even be allowed to compete. That night, preparing for the first trial, Takoda couldn't stop shaking. The 7-day solo survival would test every warrior's ability to endure the mountain's dangers alone. No help, no backup, just you against nature. But Takoda's real challenge would be surviving 7 days alone with his own mind. You'll do fine, Kai said, helping him pack supplies. Trust yourself. Takoda looked at his best friend. Kai had been there for every breakdown, every moment of rage, every time Takoda had doubted himself. If anyone believed in him, it was Kai. Why do you stay? Takoda asked. After everything I've done, every time I've lost control, why are you still here? Kai's expression flickered. Just for a moment, something like pain crossed his face. Because you're my brother, and brothers don't abandon each other.
The mountain was merciless. On day 3 of the solo trial, Takoda found himself pinned in a cave by a sudden storm. Lightning split the sky, thunder shook the stone around him, and in the darkness, with nothing but his thoughts for company, the voices grew louder. "You're going to fail. Everyone knows it. You're weak, pathetic, just like your father." The Shadow Wolf's voice was vicious, relentless. It cataloged every mistake, every flaw, every reason he didn't deserve to be guardian. "But you could make them respect you, fear you, show them what real power looks like." Then, softer, the Spirit Wolf. "You have gifts, compassion, strength that isn't about rage. You can be different." But which voice was truth? Which was lie? On day 5, exhausted and half-starved, Takoda encountered another warrior, one who'd broken his leg and couldn't continue. Protocol said you didn't help competitors. Everyone understood the rules. The Shadow Wolf hissed, "Leave him. One less rival. He would do the same to you." The Spirit Wolf urged, "Help him. That's what a guardian does." Takoda stared at the injured warrior for a long moment. Then he helped the man construct a splint, pointed him toward the safe path down, and gave him half his remaining food. The warrior looked at him with confusion. "Why?" "Because that's what my father would have done." He passed the solo trial, barely. He'd lost weight, sleep, and nearly his mind, but he'd survived. Back in the village, Kai greeted him with relief. "You made it, brother." But Elder Shen pulled Takoda aside. "You helped Jiro. That showed character, but the council is concerned. During training, you destroyed 3 dummies, injured 2 sparring partners, and nearly attacked Raven. Takoda, we need to know, can you control yourself?" "I'm trying." "Trying isn't enough. The next trial is in 3 days. Team challenge. You'll be grouped with other warriors. If you lose control..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. That night, Takoda climbed higher than he'd ever gone, past the village, past the training grounds, to the sacred mountain where few dared venture, to his grandfather's cave. The old man sat by a small fire, as if he'd been expecting him. Grandfather wasn't just a village elder, he was legend, the silent wolf they'd called him in his warrior days. He'd been guardian before anyone could remember, had faced enemies that were now just stories. "Grandfather," Takoda collapsed near the fire. "I'm losing myself. There's a beast inside me I can't control. Some days I feel invincible, ready to conquer anything. Other days, I'm paralyzed with fear and doubt. I hurt people I care about. I make promises I break. I start with good intentions and end in destruction." His voice cracked. "What's wrong with me?" The old man studied him for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Let me tell you about the 2 wolves."
"Inside every human being," Grandfather began, his voice carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom, "there is a battle, a fight between 2 wolves." Takoda leaned forward. "The first wolf is the Shadow Wolf. It is made of fear, anger, envy, regret, resentment. It whispers that you're not enough. It screams for revenge when you're hurt. It feeds on self-pity, false pride, ego. It tells you to destroy before you're destroyed." The fire cast dancing shadows on the cave walls. "The second wolf is the Spirit Wolf. It is made of joy, peace, love, hope, serenity. It offers humility, kindness, empathy, truth, compassion. It believes in your potential. It sees the good in others. It chooses to build rather than destroy." Takoda felt something click into place. "I've felt both of them every day." "Of course you have. Every human does. The battle is constant, relentless. But which wolf wins?" Grandfather's eyes glinted in the firelight. The one you feed. The simplicity of it hit Takoda like a physical blow. The one you feed. Every choice, every thought, every action, they were all feeding one wolf or the other. So I just choose good over evil? Yes, the old man paused. Though the battle is more complex than you know. You will understand when the time comes. What do you mean? But grandfather only smiled. Finish the trials, master yourself. Then, if you need to, come back. The deepest wisdom can only be earned, not given. Takoda descended the mountain with new determination. He understood now. The shadow wolf was his enemy. The spirit wolf was his ally. All he had to do was feed the right one. It sounded so simple. The first failure. The team challenge arrived. Teams of 4 warriors working together to retrieve ceremonial artifacts from a series of caves while defending against obstacles and other teams. Takoda's team included Kai, 2 younger warriors, and, of course, Raven had been assigned to another group that would compete directly against them. Remember, Kai said before they entered the caves, this isn't about individual glory, it's about working together. Takoda nodded. He would be perfect. He would feed only the spirit wolf. Compassion, cooperation, peace. The caves were a labyrinth of passages and traps. Takoda's team moved efficiently at first. He let others make decisions. He supported rather than led. He was calm, centered, controlled. Then they encountered Raven's team at the central chamber where the primary artifact waited, a carved eagle worth the most points. Only one team gets this, Raven said, his group blocking the path. Takoda felt heat rising but pushed it down. Feed the spirit wolf. Peace, cooperation. We could work together, he suggested. Share the points. Raven laughed. Is that the warrior talking or the coward? The shadow wolf stirred. He's mocking you, disrespecting you. Show him who's stronger. No. Peace. Calm. He wouldn't react. Raven's team made their move, trying to grab the artifact. Takoda's team rushed to block them. Chaos erupted. Pushing, shoving, a physical struggle for dominance. Takoda, help us, one of his teammates shouted. But Takoda stood frozen, hands at his sides, trying desperately to feed only the spirit wolf. He wouldn't fight. He wouldn't let anger control him. In his paralysis, he failed to see Raven's real plan. While everyone was distracted, Raven had circled behind, was setting a trap. "Takoda, move!" Kai shoved him aside just as stones collapsed from above. Kai took the impact, crying out in pain as rocks struck his shoulder and side. And then the shadow wolf exploded. Every ounce of rage Takoda had been suppressing detonated at once. He went after Raven with a fury that terrified everyone present. It took 3 warriors to pull him off. By the time the trial ended, Takoda's team had failed completely. Kai was injured, not seriously, but enough to require Mika's healing, and Takoda stood in the center of the cave, chest heaving, knuckles bloody again, staring at the destruction he'd caused. "I was trying," he whispered to Kai later as Mika wrapped his friend's ribs. "I can use understanding." "You can't just ignore anger," Kai said, wincing. "Suppressing it doesn't make it go away. It just makes it worse when it finally breaks free." But Takoda didn't understand. The teaching was clear. Feed the spirit wolf, starve the shadow wolf. Why had it failed? The second failure. Takoda swung to the opposite extreme. If suppressing the shadow wolf didn't work, maybe he needed to embrace the spirit wolf completely, become wholly peaceful, wholly passive, wholly safe. The next trial was solo combat, each warrior facing every other in one-on-one matches, not to the death, but to submission or ring out. When Takoda faced Raven, he made a decision.
He wouldn't fight with rage. He would barely fight at all. The spirit wolf was compassion, peace, understanding, so he would embody only that. "Begin," Elder Shen called. Raven attacked immediately, testing Takoda's defenses. Takoda blocked but didn't counter. He deflected but didn't strike back. "What are you doing?" Raven hissed. "Fight me." "I don't need to hurt you," Takoda said calmly. "This doesn't have to be about violence." In the watching crowd, Mika leaned forward with concern. Grandfather, standing at the back, shook his head slowly. Raven's attacks grew more aggressive. Takoda continued his purely defensive approach, refusing to tap into any of the Shadow Wolf's power, the strength, the fury, the killer instinct that had always made him dangerous. Then Raven swept his legs and Takoda crashed down. Before he could recover, Raven's blade was at his throat. "Submission," the elder called. Takoda had lost, but worse, he'd nearly been killed. Only the rules of the trial had saved him. Mika rushed to him afterward. "Takoda, what were you thinking? You could have been seriously hurt." "I was trying to feed the spirit wolf, like Grandfather said." "By becoming prey?" "Takoda," she grabbed his shoulders, "you're one of the most gifted warriors this village has ever seen. But today you fought like someone who'd given up. That's not the spirit wolf. That's just giving up." That night, frustrated and confused, Takoda walked the village perimeter alone. The teaching made sense. Feed the spirit wolf, starve the shadow wolf. But when he suppressed his rage, it exploded. When he embraced pure peace, he became helpless. What was he missing? He was so lost in thought that he almost missed it, a figure moving in the shadows near the village food stores. Someone was tampering with the grain sacks. Someone was sabotaging the village during the trials. The figure turned, and Takoda's blood froze. The supplies and tools left behind, he recognized them. They belonged to Kai. The dark discovery. For 3 days, Takoda didn't confront his best friend. Instead, he investigated. More sabotage occurred. Food poisoned, water sources contaminated, training equipment damaged. Each time, small but growing. Someone was systematically weakening the village during its most important trial, and every piece of evidence pointed to Kai. The Shadow Wolf roared constantly now. He's been lying to you, using you, betraying everyone. The Spirit Wolf urged caution. Trust him, there must be an explanation. But what explanation could there be? On the 4th day, Takoda made his decision. He would follow Kai, tonight. As darkness fell, Kai slipped out of the village. Takoda followed at a distance, moving through the forest like the warrior he'd trained to be. Kai moved to a clearing deep in the woods, and there, waiting in the shadows, was Raven. Takoda's heart hammered as he concealed himself, close enough to hear. "I can't do this anymore," Kai's voice was anguished. "You've gotten what you wanted. The village is vulnerable. Takoda is falling apart. Just let it end." "Let it end?" Raven's laugh was cold. "We're just getting started. You'll continue doing exactly what I tell you, unless you want everyone to know the truth." "Please." "Your choice is simple, Kai. Keep helping me eliminate Takoda from the trials, or I tell the council what really happened 5 years ago, how you're responsible for his father's death." The world tilted. "It was an accident," Kai's voice broke. "A training exercise. I didn't mean—" "But you did. You killed a legendary guardian, and you've spent 5 years lying about it. Can you imagine what they'll do to you? What Takoda will do when he learns his father's best friend killed his father?" Takoda couldn't breathe. His father, Kai, all this time.
The Shadow Wolf wasn't roaring now. It was screaming, demanding blood, justice, revenge. His best friend had killed his father, had lied to him for 5 years, had let him blame himself, blame his father's supposed loss of control, when the truth was,
"One more week," Raven said. "One more week of sabotage, and Takoda will be disqualified on suspicion of involvement. You'll be free of your guilt, and I'll be guardian. Everyone wins. Except for the innocent people being hurt. Collateral damage. Make your choice, Kai. Help me or face justice for murder." Raven disappeared into the forest. Kai remained, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. Takoda stood frozen behind a tree, mind reeling. Everything he thought he knew was a lie. But the spirit wolf, quiet beneath the shadow wolf's rage, whispered something. "He's suffering. He made a mistake. He's being torn apart by guilt. This isn't simple." No, it was simple. Kai had killed his father, was betraying the village, was a traitor. But if it was so simple, why couldn't Takoda move? Why couldn't he charge out there and end it? He watched as Kai finally stood and walked back toward the village, moving like a man carrying the weight of mountains. Takoda had a choice: report everything to the council, expose Kai, seek justice, or investigate deeper, confront Kai directly, try to understand. The two wolves battled inside him more ferociously than ever before.
Takoda spent all night in turmoil. By morning, he'd made his decision. He found Kai at dawn at the cliff edge where they'd sat together countless times. "I know," Takoda said simply. Kai turned, and the look on his face confirmed everything. No denial, no surprise, just resignation. "How long have you known?" "I followed you last night, heard everything with Raven." Takoda's voice was remarkably steady, though inside, both wolves were howling. "Tell me what happened. With my father, I deserve the truth." Kai was silent for a long moment. Then, 5 years ago, we were doing advanced training. Your father was teaching me a new technique. We were sparring near the cliff edge. You know the one, past the waterfall. I was young, cocky, trying to impress him. I went for a move I hadn't mastered yet. He blocked it, but... Kai's voice cracked. I lost my balance, grabbed him instinctively. We both went over. There was a ledge about 20 feet down. I landed on it. He didn't. You killed him. I killed him. Tears streamed down Kai's face. When I climbed up, the other elders were there. They saw what happened. They could have told everyone the truth. But your father was legendary. My family would have been exiled, maybe killed. So they decided it would be ruled a training accident, his own mistake. Better to preserve the legend than destroy both our families. And you let me believe, let everyone believe that my father lost control, that he died because he was dangerous? I wanted to tell you. Every day, for 5 years, I wanted to tell you, but I was a coward. And then Raven figured it out somehow. He's been blackmailing me, forcing me to sabotage the village, making me watch you fall apart. Takoda, I'm so sorry. I'm so... Stop. Takoda stood there, feeling both wolves at war inside him. The shadow wolf, all his rage, his pain, his sense of betrayal. It was real, valid. 5 years of lies, his father's death, the sabotage, every reason to let that wolf lead. The spirit wolf whispered of compassion, understanding, forgiveness, of the burden Kai had carried alone, of the fact that it had been an accident. But then a slow clap echoed from the trees. Raven emerged, smiling. Beautiful, truly beautiful. I was wondering how long it would take. You led me here, Takoda realized. Of course I did. You think I didn't notice you following Kai? I've been watching you for weeks, Takoda, learning everything about you. Your rage, your fear.
your precious two wolves struggle. His smile widened. I knew if I pushed hard enough, you'd discover the truth, and then I'd have you both. What are you talking about? The council is meeting this morning to decide the trials. I've already planted evidence linking both of you to the sabotage, but now you have an even better choice. He gestured between them. Kai betrayed you, killed your father, is helping me destroy the village. You can execute him right here, prove your loyalty, and maybe save yourself. Or you can defend a traitor and be exiled with him. Either way, you're both out of the trials. The Shadow Wolf roared. He's right. Kai deserves death. Take it. Take your revenge. The Spirit Wolf pleaded. Forgiveness, compassion, understanding. But Takoda stood there, suddenly seeing clearly. This was the real trial. Not combat, not survival, not team challenges. This right here. This impossible moment where both wolves were screaming, where there was no right answer, where any choice would cost him everything. Takoda closed his eyes. In the darkness, he could feel them both. The Shadow Wolf, all his rage, his pain, his sense of betrayal. It was real, valid. 5 years of lies, his father's death, the sabotage, every reason to let that wolf lead. The Spirit Wolf whispered of compassion, understanding, forgiveness, of the burden Kai had carried alone, of the fact that it had been an accident. But then a slow clap echoed from the trees. Raven emerged, smiling. Beautiful, truly beautiful. I was wondering how long it would take. You led me here, Takoda realized. Of course I did. You think I didn't notice you following Kai? I've been watching you for weeks, Takoda, learning everything about you. Your rage, your fear, your precious two wolves struggle. His smile widened. I knew if I pushed hard enough, you'd discover the truth, and then I'd have you both. What are you talking about? The council is meeting this morning to decide the trials. I've already planted evidence linking both of you to the sabotage, but now you have an even better choice. He gestured between them. Kai betrayed you, killed your father, is helping me destroy the village. You can execute him right here, prove your loyalty, and maybe save yourself. Or you can defend a traitor and be exiled with him. Either way, you're both out of the trials. The Shadow Wolf roared. He's right. Kai deserves death. Take it. Take your revenge. The Spirit Wolf pleaded. Forgiveness, compassion, understanding. But Takoda stood there, suddenly seeing clearly. This was the real trial. Not combat, not survival, not team challenges. This right here. This impossible moment where both wolves were screaming, where there was no right answer, where any choice. Takoda closed his eyes. In the darkness, he could feel them both. The Shadow Wolf, all his rage, his pain, his sense of betrayal. It was powerful, real, valid. 5 years of lies, his father's death, the sabotage, every reason to let that wolf lead. The Spirit Wolf, all his love for Kai, the brother who'd stood by him through every breakdown, the understanding that it had been an accident, the compassion for someone carrying impossible guilt, every reason to let this wolf lead. But as he stood there, something his grandfather had said echoed back. The battle is more complex than you know. And suddenly, Takoda understood. He opened his eyes. You're wrong, Raven, he said quietly, about all of it. Am I? Raven raised an eyebrow. Enlighten me. You think the Shadow Wolf is my enemy, that I'm trying to kill it, starve it, pretend it doesn't exist. But you're wrong. Takoda stepped forward. The Shadow Wolf isn't evil. It's my survival instinct, my protector. my fire. He turned to Kai. I'm angry at you, devastated, betrayed. The shadow wolf is screaming for revenge, and you know what? That's valid. Those feelings are real and important, and I'm not going to pretend they don't exist. Then he looked back at Raven. But I'm not going to let the shadow wolf lead, because the spirit wolf sees something deeper. That Kai has been tortured by guilt for 5 years. That he was a kid who made a terrible mistake. That he's been a true brother to me even while carrying this burden. That vengeance won't bring my father back. Touching, Raven sneered. So you'll do nothing? No. Takoda's voice hardened. I'll do something. I acknowledge both wolves. I listen to both. The shadow wolf gives me the strength and righteous anger to stand here and face you. The spirit wolf gives me the wisdom to choose compassion for Kai and justice, not revenge, for you. He turned to Kai fully now. You're carrying a burden that isn't yours to carry alone. My father's death was an accident. I forgive you, and you need to forgive yourself. Kai stared at him in disbelief. After everything? You've been my brother for 5 years. That doesn't stop because of an accident. It should have been told differently, but I choose to see your heart, not just your mistakes. Then he faced Raven, and this time, something had shifted in his stance. Both wolves were present now. The shadow wolf's power controlled by the spirit wolf's wisdom. You tried to feed my shadow wolf because yours has consumed you entirely. You have no spirit wolf left, only manipulation, cruelty, ambition without honor. I won't fight you with blind rage, but I won't let you harm my village with passivity either. Raven lunged, blade drawn, but Takoda was ready.
The fight that followed was like nothing Takoda had ever experienced. He drew on the shadow wolf's fury, but channeled through the spirit wolf's control. Powerful strikes, but measured. Aggressive, but not reckless. He defended Kai while also defending himself. This was what his grandfather meant. Both wolves, integrated, acknowledged. The shadow wolf as the engine, the spirit wolf as the driver. In moments, Raven was disarmed, on his knees. You lost, Takoda said, because you only fed one wolf. You have all the shadow wolf's darkness, but none of the spirit wolf's strength.
The council's judgment. Takoda brought both Kai and Raven before the village council. Elder Shen sat at the center, grandfather to his right, other elders arrayed around them. Before you judge, Takoda said, I need to confess something. I broke protocol. When I discovered evidence of sabotage, I didn't report immediately. I investigated alone. I confronted Kai privately. I made choices without the council's authority. Why? Elder Shen asked. Because I was trying to understand. The two wolves inside me were screaming different truths. I had to listen to both before I could act. Then he told them everything. Kai's accident with his father, the cover-up by the previous council, Raven's blackmail, the sabotage, his own journey to understand the two wolves. The council chamber was silent when he finished. You kept critical information from us, Elder Shen said. That alone could disqualify you. I understand. And yet, Grandfather stood slowly, you also solved a mystery we didn't know existed, stopped sabotage that threatened the village, and demonstrated something we've been testing for all along. He walked to the center of the chamber. The Guardian trials were never about finding the strongest warrior. We have many strong warriors. They were about finding someone who could master the two wolves. He turned to face Takoda fully. Your father didn't die from losing control.
That was the story we told because the truth was complicated. He died protecting a young warrior who made a mistake, Kai, by choosing to take the fall rather than let a child be destroyed by guilt. He channeled his shadow wolf's strength to survive the fall long enough to push Kai to safety. He used his spirit wolf's love to sacrifice himself. Takoda felt tears streaming down his face. Your father had finally learned the deepest truth. Every human has darkness and light. The mature warrior doesn't kill the darkness. He acknowledges it, respects its power, but chooses to let the light lead. Your shadow wolf will always be there, and that's not a flaw. It's your warning system, your fire, your survival instinct. But when you let your spirit wolf guide that power, you become what your father became, a true guardian. Elder Shen stood. Raven, you are exiled for sabotage and manipulation. Kai, you will face consequences for your role, but given the circumstances of your coercion and your genuine remorse, we offer you a path to redemption through service. Then he looked at Takoda. And you, Takoda, you are named Guardian, not for being perfect, but for being whole.
3 days later, Takoda stood at the cliff edge where his father had died. Kai stood beside him. I'm your second, Kai said quietly, if you'll have me. We both have shadows to work with, Takoda replied. Better to face them together. Mika approached, placing a hand on Takoda's shoulder. I never fell in love with your perfection. I fell in love with your choice to grow. That evening, Grandfather found Takoda at the guardian post. You understand now? The old man asked. I do. The two wolves aren't good and evil. They're both parts of me. The shadow wolf is anger, fear, survival, but also strength, protection, the fire I need to act. The spirit wolf is compassion, peace, wisdom, but I need the shadow wolf's power to make that wisdom effective. Yes, and the wolf that wins isn't the strongest one. It's the one I feed with my choices. I acknowledge both, I listen to both, but I choose which one leads. Grandfather smiled. Your father would be proud. As night fell over the village, Takoda felt the familiar presence of both wolves inside him. The shadow wolf, restless and powerful. The spirit wolf, calm and wise. Tomorrow he would face new challenges, threats to the village, decisions that had no easy answers, moments when both wolves would howl for control. But now he understood. The battle wasn't about killing one wolf for the other. It was about integration, about honoring all of who he was, the darkness and the light, while consciously choosing which voice to follow. Every single day, he would face the two wolves. One would whisper fear, the other courage. One would scream anger, the other compassion. One would pull him toward destruction, the other toward creation. And here's what most people never realize. The shadow wolf isn't your enemy. It's part of your power. The key is not to kill it, but to acknowledge it exists, and then consciously choose which wolf you allow to lead. Because the wolf that wins isn't the strongest one, it's the one you feed. So, tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, which wolf am I feeding with my thoughts, my choices, my actions? The answer will determine not just tomorrow, but your entire destiny.